A bit about yourself then, Neil. A lot of people might not know you.
Hi Lee. Yeah, absolutely. So I actually joined OpTramp in April of this year. In fact, I've actually been in the IT operations space now for nearly coming up to 30 years. It's incredible, how quickly that time's gone. I've seen an incredible amount of change, obviously, in that time. But I actually started way back in 1991 when I was joined an investment bank as a junior operator in the data center. So, automation back then was very, very, there really wasn't any automation. So it was all very manual. Sort of things I was doing was batch processing, printing, changing, tape drives and things of that nature. But, you know, shortly after that, I got into more sort of mid-range computing roles. So I joined a hospital in London, a law firm, and a service provider, where they were really focusing on what's called mid-range computing at the time. So you think of platforms like Digital VAX, IBM, and really although some of the tasks were the same, it was all around batch processing, you know, system housekeeping, other tasks like that. Those companies really started to introduce more sort of feature-rich command line interfaces. So my favorite was around Digital VAX. They had something called DCL,
Yeah, yeah. I
and
remember I worked on PDPs many years ago as well.
yeah. So I quickly learned, from an early age, really that okay, there's this great command line. I've now got access to it. I've got to do all these tasks during my shift. You know, I can actually now write, what's called command line procedures to create a script that okay, I can save a whole lot of time here, by writing these scripts and having, a very simple menu interface with just clicking a button is to do all the things that were taking me hours that I could do within seconds. So that allowed me to really move on to more, higher impact projects. And that's kind of the same theme that you see today.
I'm sure
Yeah.
automation's changed quite a lot though in the time though, hasn't it? So, if we look at what we were doing then with scripts and things, automation's moved on quite a bit to this point in time, especially language wise. Have you seen a great deal of change yourself?
Oh, of course. 30 years is a long time in this business. I've seen it all. And I've, been in roles that's enabled me to, you know, um, to gain, skills and knowledge, about everything that we do now in our operations. So, around about 1997 was the time when I joined IBM as a consultant. So a lot more capabilities came out around that time, um, to really help our customers, really optimize how they manage their infrastructure, with automation. Um, so slightly more sophisticated than in the early 90s, but it wasn't really until sort of mid 2000s when really the technology started to advance, to a much greater level where you could visually define an automation workflow or pipeline to execute a series of tasks, one after the other, make decisions based on the output of the task, right, where to go next in like a decision tree format. And that's really the fundamentals of what we now know as IT process automation. It goes by other names like runbook automation as well. But it was around about 2010, that really started to appear, right? When that's really when progress really started to be made.
Do you think
You know,
the adoption of cloud services is increased the amount of automation people are doing?
which I think yes, but also the roles have changed quite a bit. So before it was system administrator, operator role doesn't exist anymore. You still see system administrator roles, on LinkedIn, but the emphasis now is really, the roles that are in most demand in this space are cloud engineers and the SREs, the site reliability engineers. They're really the new automation roles.
How do you think automation is changing going forward? Then is it very different, or are we trying to automate different things?
It's uh, it's just that the technology and the infrastructure has changed, dramatically, right? So now it's like serverless, microservices. They didn't exist a few years ago. You know, it wasn't only, it doesn't seem that long. It was all, client server. But the technology's changed so dramatically, and so the tooling has to really keep up, right, with the advancements in the infrastructure space. So that's where you'll see, these sort of DevOps tools like Ansible, Chef, Puppet. These are really what's being used now, and it's the onus is upon vendors to really integrate with those platforms, right? Because those tools like Ansible are great, right? But they don't do it all, right? They need to be somehow integrated with other monitoring tools, event management platforms, and so on.
Well, what I've seen as well is there's been a big change around development as well as people move towards agile development and DevOps. A lot of automations come into that space as well, whereas previously a lot of things were manual process.
Yeah, so a lot of viewers of this may be using tools like Terraform. So if you're an SRE engineer, you're probably using something like that to auto provision your infrastructure stack. So it's really, you got to really focus on there. So is within those tools, you need to be setting up your monitoring, alerting, and automation, right? Using the same language that they use in those tools, because they don't want to be spending their time, manually doing anything. So it's all about reducing toil, is what they call it. So anything that's manual, I don't want to be spending time manually doing anything. If it could be automated.
Yeah.
So
What about with digital transformation? Do you think it's going to have a major impact on organizations, the need for automation because of that?
well, if you look at digital transformation, what's really one of the areas that's really driving that is what's called robotic process automation. So even though it's we've kind of been doing that for years, it only really started to take off around 5 years ago, when you really starting to see some of the major players in there really taking a stronghold. So you know automating anything that was paper based, back office task, invoice processing, anything that was really manually intensive, you can really automate those. So RPA comes in two forms, right? So you either do things in unattended mode or attended mode. So RPA predominantly is focusing on unattended mode, so attended mode. So you have a UI, you record the steps that you would take. You get an email, then you need to open up a spreadsheet, right? Then you need to go into another tool. You can record all those steps you take and then play them back. So that's attended mode. So, but there are occasions where RPA tools in the ITOM world, may want to access a legacy platform like mainframe. So you'd have, a web browser that can connect to a mainframe. Then you can start to automate some of the tasks in those platforms that would otherwise be, challenging to do. So where it integrates with, AA ops, right, which is the area that I focus on, is that you can have an end-to-end, automation workflow that then integrates with these RPA tools to, execute some of the attended tasks that can't be done, from the back end. So that's really where I see, IT operations management really integrating with sort of digital operations,
So
right?
tell us a bit about OpsRamp then, because you've joined OpsRamp recently. Tell us a little bit why you've joined, and also OpsRamp's started out with some runbook automation, but there are now introductions of Ansible and other plans going forward. So tell us a little bit about OpsRamp and yourself and why you joined.
Well, OpsRamp was absolutely perfect company for me. So, if I, as I mentioned earlier about a bit about my background, I've been involved in monitoring for years. I've been doing event management, for many different companies. I'm really an automation guy. if I really being honest with myself, because that's what I started out doing, was automating my job, effectively making myself redundant
Yeah.
because I'd automated everything. So OpsRamp, is just, does it all in under, a single platform. It's what we call discovery to resolution. So being able to discover your hybrid cloud environment in real time, whether that's on premise or Kubernetes, we'll discover your environment continuously. Being able to monitor your environment, right, for anomalies, then applying AIOps capabilities and algorithms to to do more prevention and prediction, right, and then being able to automate issues that we see. So kind of that's the reason why I joined OpsRamp, because of the capabilities that they offer is second to none, right? And obviously they're just the ideal company for me to excel as a product manager, and to help our customers get measurably better at what they do, with
So,
AIOps.
what do you think the future within OpsRamp is around automation? Is it going to get stronger and stronger and expand?
Absolutely, that's why I'm here. There is a sort of emerging trend. For those of you who follow automation, is what's called hyper automation. So it's really combining everything we've done in the past with more modern capabilities. So taking simple task automation, robotic process automation, business process management, right? But applying more AI capabilities, because AI is not just about machine learning. It's much broader than that. Things like process mining, being able to optimize a process, where are the bottlenecks? It's combining all those things together into what's called hyper automation. So I think ITOM, IT Operations Management, has a big part to play in that trend. And that's kind of what we expect to see going forward, is ITOM really starting to leverage some of these hyper automation capabilities. So combining everything in under one platform, to really help our customers meet their goals that they have, and making them measurably better at their business.
I see automation in other areas as well, is trying to be consistent as well, and having that consistent response to a particular issue that you've had, rather than having to go back and reinvent it and reinvent the wheel and do the same thing again later with a delay. Try and apply that same fix you had before. Do you think that's a key thing as well?
Well, in my view, event management has been around a long time, right? Taking an action based off of an alert or an event is something that every modern event management tool is expected to do. So there's nothing really new there. Really, the key focus here, is customers. They're very knowledgeable about the marketplace. They know what we do. We know what our other vendors in this space do. But really, where the focus needs to be from our customers' perspective is around being able to prevent issues, and predict, future events. So it's great to react to events, because the nature of an event is something has occurred,
Yeah.
right? That's usually bad. So we want to get ahead of that to predict when these events are going to occur in the future, and to put in, actions and steps that we can prevent them from reoccurring in the future. So that's really, the part of the focus.
I think that's a big drive with this AI ops piece, isn't it? Around prevention, prediction, and prevention of failure. Because especially if you've digitized the business, you're really going to impact everyone if you have an outage. And also, it's not just going to affect the business; it's also going to affect the reputation of the business as well.
Absolutely. The machine learning algorithms these days, are really geared up towards, predictive analytics. And that's really, leveraging these algorithms, to solve some of these bigger, challenges that are, still unsolved. And that's really part of my focus, is to meet those challenges.
Right, I think I've taken enough of your time today. We're just at 15 minutes, so thank you very much for your time, Neil. That was very insightful, and hopefully we can get you back to tell us a bit more in depth about what OpsRamp can do for people.
Anytime.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Lee. Okay, thank you.